HU. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Are you ready to be a part of the conversation that will help shape our nation's future? Get ready to join us for the Left Coast Forum, Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech, where progressive voices will come together to tackle the issues that matter most to working families across Los Angeles and beyond. From economic justice to climate action, from healthcare to housing, we're bringing together the brightest minds and most passionate advocates for real solutions and real change. With workshops, 2 major keynote addresses, and a closing reception with great music and good food. It's the Left Coast Forum, where your voice matters and your ideas take action. Saturday, October 25th at LA Trade Tech. Brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and the LA Progressive. The future won't wait, and neither should you. Mark your calendar now to be there and be heard. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details.
First things first.
First things first, it's the DU General, Money B. I'ma put you up on the schedule, 6 to 9, 8 weekdays, not 2 and 7. We got a lot to talk about, so much to pedal through. Unapologetically progressive. Tune to KBLA 1580 to get the mess. We're your ancestors' favorite radio station. First black on talk radio, left side of the nation. Me and Dominique the Prima go way back. Tap smiling, making sure the station stays black. Discussing all the issues in our community. Hosted black and brown and others find unity. So let's talk about it. Maybe we can improve it. Digital underground, always down with the move. So we tune in. The first things first with the queen of Black Talk Radio, Dominique the Prima. Go sis.
First things first.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, or what do y'all say? Grand Rising. Grand Rising. My name is Molina Abdullah. I am not Dominique DePrima, but honored to be sitting in her chair this morning. We wish her a restful time, some much needed restoration time. And I'm honored to be sitting in. Pray also for the guidance of the ancestors and the Most High. I pray that they speak through me today and that I be used to do good work in this world. I'm grateful to be here with Brother Miles. Brother Miles is here, and we have a tremendous show lined up for you. I'm excited about these conversations. First hour, we are going to be plugging in with one of my favorite people in the entire world. Joseph Williams is the director of Students Deserve. He serves on the core team for Black Lives Matter Los Angeles, and for the moment gets to claim to be a spades victor. We'll see if we can get those tides to turn. Second hour, we're going to plug in with Jill Monroe, and we're going to be talking about one of my other favorite people in the world, Jussie Smollett. And I know y'all were hating on us when we were saying Chicago police be lying, and this is a setup, but I stick to those guns or whatever we want to call them, because there's a new documentary that pokes major holes in the argument that Chicago police made about Jussie. Jussie is a freedom fighter and a dear friend. In fact, the entire Smollett family is, and we're grateful that he is home and doing well and has new projects out. And we're going to be talking about this new documentary, which I haven't seen yet, but Jill Monroe has. And so she'll be joining us. And then the last hour, I get to talk with a Cornel West former Republican. Is he still a Republican? I'm not sure. John Wood Jr., who it's interesting because my sister Jan Williams in Black Lives Matter Los Angeles loves the conversations that Tavis often has with John Wood Jr. And now I get to have that conversation today. So I'm excited to be in conversation. I always like people keeping me on my toes. I want to uplift that I do take calls on this show. We do take calls on this show. You are always welcome to call in. Our phone number is 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580. We encourage calls. If you have thoughts, we should be talking about those thoughts. We should be talking about those ideas. No one on a show that I host would ever mute somebody. We always have you on. Now, of course, if you get to be disrespectful or you do something that is in violation of FCC rules, then we got to take you off then. But other than that, you don't have to agree with me on everything. I tell my students this all the time. You don't have to agree with me. I am very forthcoming and outspoken in what I believe and in my opinions. It doesn't mean that you have to believe that exact same thing. In fact, we grow as a people when we have courageous conversations and principled disagreements. What I can't stand is a liar. My grandmother always taught me that if you lie, you'll steal, and if you steal, you'll kill. If you lie, you'll steal, and if you steal, you'll kill. Don't lie. That's what I'm going to say. Don't lie. I'm not going to call nobody by name, but don't lie. Can't stand a liar. Can't stand a liar. How unprincipled. There's enough for us to debate about without lying. We can debate on the truth. We can debate on what my policy positions are. I stand for college priority for Black students in AB 7. Don't care if you don't like the author. Don't care if you don't like the author. I think it's a good thing for Black students to get into college. That's why I teach. I'm a professor. Oh, I should introduce myself. Molina Abdullah. I organize with Black Lives Matter Grassroots and Black Lives Matter Los Angeles. And what pays me is I'm a professor, a longtime professor of Pan-African Studies at Cal State LA's College of Ethnic Studies, where I teach about activism and organizing and womanism. And I believe that Black women have the right and sacred duty to speak up for ourselves, to be leaders in movement, just as we've always been. Back to pre-colonial Africa, right? Hatshepsut was not a queen. She was a pharaoh in pre-colonial Kemet, right? When we think about the warrior women, the Tahomey warrior women, when we call on Ya Santewa, Black women have always been on front lines. We have a right, we have a tradition, and a sacred duty to be, and that does not diminish your manhood. It only, in the words of my spirit son and former student, Dr. Chris Jackson, only weak men fear strong women. Only weak men fear strong women. And so when we are strong, we are strong. When Black women are strong, we all get free. Mama Harriet proved that, right? It was only her first weak husband, John Tubman, that refused to follow her to freedom. Think about what she built with her second husband, Nelson Davis, when they built that beautiful home for the infirmed and elderly in Auburn, New York, right? That's what Black women and Black men can do together when we see each other's strength as our collective strength. So I'm saying all that to say that we should be in it for each other. And I have never been one to shy away from spirited debate. What I won't do is engage in ways that are riddled with lies. So if you tell lies, I'm going to tell the truth on you in the way that I choose to. In the way that I choose to. I may not call you by name because I'm not going to platform somebody who doesn't have a platform, but I'm going to tell the truth on you, tell the truth on you. And the truth beats a lie every day of the week. So I'm saying all that, and most of y'all are not liars. I have faith in you. Give us a call if you have anything to say, 800-920-1580. We are here on First Things First. I am grateful again to be in conversation with one of my favorite people on earth and one of my children's favorite people on earth, our brother Joseph Williams, who leads Students Deserve, which is doing powerful work for Black students in LAUSD. Powerful work for Black students in LAUSD. It's really important that as we remember the words of Paul Robeson, the battlefront is everywhere. There is no sheltered rear. The battlefront is everywhere. It means that we need all of us to take on different points in that battle. And I am so grateful that we can entrust the battle for our children to one of these powerful warriors, Joseph Williams. Joseph Williams, thank you for getting up with me this morning and joining us on First Things First.
What's up, Doc?
What's
I
up,
am
Joseph?
happy to be on with you.
Aw, you
I-
woke
I'm
up early. You didn't even play basketball yet. You didn't go to the gym? What?
Mm-mm.
You got up with
That's
me
it.
first. First things first.
I
Huh?
did. First things first.
Thank you
And you
so
gave
much.
me credit for winning spades on the radio.
I
I'm
know.
surprised
But
about
look,
that.
my losing streak is pretty bad. I had to admit, do you remember what I said on the table? Look, I can talk big stuff on the dominoes table. I'm kind of mediocre now on spades. I can't even say I'm good no more. What am I
Oh,
doing?
wow.
What am I
Oh,
doing?
wow.
Y'all been beating us for a minute. No, should I blame my partner? No, I'm not gonna do that. I was gonna blame my partner.
Shots fired.
How you
No, but
doing
I'm
this
grateful to
morning?
be on with you, Doc. I'm grateful to be on with you. Grateful for your intro this morning. I agree with you 1,000%. And I'm grateful to be somebody who has learned from and been able to support and follow your leadership, your strong Black woman leadership for a decade now. And so, as the times are what they are, as the attacks against our communities advance, I'm deeply grateful that you are still rooted in movement, rooted in struggle, rooted in the lineages and the histories that have guided your organizing and your leadership for years. So I'm happy to be on with you this morning, and even more happy to be in the movement with you.
Well, I'm grateful to be in the movement with you. And we know that in Black Lives Matter Grassroots and Black Lives Matter Los Angeles, we know that we practice what we call group-centered leadership through the teachings of Mama Ella Baker, that all of us comprise leadership. And so you're part of the core team, Joseph, and you help to guide us as well, and very, very grateful for that. When we come forward, I want to plug in, I got some notice from my Yahoo email that I'm like double the limit. I didn't even know Yahoo had a limit, but I'm like double the limit. And if I don't clear out my email, I'm going to stop receiving messages, which has happened. So if you've emailed me at Yahoo, I have not gotten it since, I think it's been cut off since Thursday. So I'm going through the emails, and in the email is an email from like more than 9 years ago, 10 years ago, more than that, when Students Deserve first started, when there was a room. I remember being called to a meeting, and I think Tandiwe and Amara were born, but Amen may not have even been born yet, or if he was a baby. And we were in a room, and it was just a few chairs and kids crawling around on the floor. And Students Deserve, the school's LA Students Deserve was born. And it didn't really manifest into its fullest potential until you took the reins. And grateful for the work that you've done in empowering our students in LAUSD, especially our Black students. So when we come forward, I want us to hop in to what is the school's LA Students Deserve, or as we call it, Students Deserve now. More with Joseph Williams when we come forward.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicolai Corte. Let's preserve Black land stories before they're lost forever. I want to personally invite you to be a part of something historic. As journalist in residence for the Black Land Loss Narrative Archive Project, I've joined forces with powerhouse attorney and social justice champion George Fothery, the man who helped make history by delivering justice to the Bruce family in Manhattan Beach, securing the first known return of land unjustly taken from Black owners by a local government. That victory was monumental, but it was just the beginning. For generations, Black families have acquired land through grit, faith, and determination, only to lose it through violence, legal loopholes, forced sales, and systematic racism. What's been taken goes far beyond dirt and deeds. It's the erasure of wealth, identity and legacy. That's why we've launched the Black Land Loss Narrative Archive Project, a national effort to collect, protect, and preserve the stories of Black land loss before they're buried, forgotten, or erased altogether. Because there's power in telling Black stories, there is resistance in remembering, and there's justice in being seen and heard. This is where you come in. We're inviting you to be a part of this historic Black narrative archive. If you or someone you know has experienced land loss, displacement, or forced property sales, your story deserves to be heard and remembered. Your story belongs in this archive. Your truth matters not just to your family, but to our collective future. Visit blacklandloss.org today. Fill out our simple intake form and add your voice to the National Archive of Remembrance, Resilience, and Reckoning. Let's make these stories live on, not in whispers, but on the record. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicolai Corte, and as always, we welcome your feedback.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With the Capital One Venture X card, you earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy. Plus, you get premium benefits at a collection of luxury hotels when you book on Capital One Travel. And with Venture X, you get access to over 1,000 airport lounges worldwide. Open up a world of travel possibilities with the Capital One Venture X card. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
As a mom, comforting my family is what I do best. Vicks Vapor Stick provides soothing, non-medicated Vicks vapors in an easy-to-apply stick, and it dries fast, so there's no mess. I use it to comfort myself and my family.
Thanks, Mom.
Vicks Vapo Stick, soothing comfort for the whole family. And try Vicks Vapo Shower Max for steamy Vicks vapors when you need more comfort for yourself. Use as directed.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex Severe from Vicks.
Sinex Severe nasal spray.
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex Severe instantly relieves nasal congestion and works 6 times faster than nasal decongestant tablets. The 12 hours of relief allow you to get back to the moments that matter without congestion.
Daddy, we need more balloons.
On it.
Try Sinex Severe from Vicks. Just Sinex. Breathe. Use as directed.
Your ancestors' favorite radio station, and your favorite morning show host. Let's get back to Dominique DePrima right now.
My name is Molina Abdullah, and I am sitting in the Queen's chair, wishing Dominique DePrima a restful and restorative break, and honored to be on with one of my favorite people on this planet. Joseph Williams is on of the Schools LA Students Deserve, and especially as a mama of 3 Black children who attended LAUSD schools, one of them who's a 10th grader now. I am so grateful for the work that you do. I'm personally a beneficiary of the work that you do, Joseph Williams. You know, I tell this story often that LAUSD schools betrayed my children, right? That Amara, my middle child, who just turned 19 years old and is now a straight A student and sophomore at Clark Atlanta University, didn't start out that way. That when she was in the 6th grade, she had police called on her in the classroom 8 times in a single semester. The first time for having a quote unquote look in her eye. Second time for having slime in her pocket. And I could go on and talk about all of these ridiculous allegations that were lodged by a non-Black teacher against this young 11-year-old Black girl and what that did to her. But it was Students Deserve that helped her find a voice and push back and know that she shouldn't be subjected to that. It helped her advocate for herself. That's one of the complaints that a lot of school administrators had about her, is that Amara's not going to take no mess. She knows how to advocate for herself. I'm grateful that she knows how to advocate for herself. And a lot of that comes from the community and the training that you gave her, Joseph, who's her uncle/brother, because you kind of in between on the ages. I'm grateful for that, Joseph. Can you talk about the work of Students Deserve and what it is that you all are committed to do before we get to some victories that were just won?
Absolutely, and first I'll say I'm proud to be the big brother, uncle, cousin of Amara and Kandiwe and Amen, and I've learned a lot. Learned a lot from them, from their advocacy, from their strength, as well as many other young people in Students Deserve. And so, Students Deserve is a grassroots, intergenerational, and multiracial formation that centers the voice and power and leadership of Black students. We're working to smash the school to prison pipeline, make Black Lives Matter in schools, and end youth incarceration in LA. And so that means that we have to create and uplift the voices and the experiences and the demands of Black young people in and beyond LA schools who are experiencing some of the things like you named. Criminalization from a very young age, school push out from a very young age, being labeled as a problem before they're seen as a person. And it's been a beautiful and healing journey for me as somebody who experienced some similar things to Amara and many of the other Black young people in LAUSD, being from a very young age labeled as a disruptor, being repeatedly from, as early as elementary school, pushed out of classes constantly, disciplined constantly for questioning or for pushing back or for being, too loud or too much of myself. And ultimately being pushed out of schools and into incarceration at a young age. And so it has been, truly the blessing, the privilege of my adult life to be able to work with young people who have far more agency and analysis of what they're experiencing and how they want to fight back against it and what they deserve in schools than I did at their age. And Amara and Tandiwe and Amen and so many others have definitely done a lot of work to help me heal my inner child as well from some of those experiences. So yeah, it is difficult being intergenerational, but centering young people. It is difficult being multiracial, but centering Black students. But that is the work of Students Deserve, and we've been able to wage and win some pretty significant campaigns supporting young people to demand what they need and deserve in schools.
Thank you for that, Joseph. And I'm tempted to go down a road and ask you to tell your story. Do you feel comfortable telling your story just a little bit, like the 3-minute version?
Sure. I'll probably make it quicker than that. So long story short, my family was, in my childhood, experienced a lot of homelessness, housing insecurity, instability, family separation. And obviously, as a young person experiencing and dealing with a lot of that trauma, a lot of that showed up in schools. And so I was a class clown and I was loud and I wanted attention. And, I also got in a lot of fights showing up to school as a very poor student who at times, there were years where me and my older brother had to share one pair of gym shoes to go to gym class because that's all my mom could afford to get us. And so obviously that makes you the brunt of jokes and of taunting. And so there were a lot of instances where, again, because of the various reasons I just named, because of being a class clown, because of not allowing myself to be a victim, but pushing back against some of the bullying or whatever the case may be, that I was labeled a dangerous kid, a kid who was deserving of being pushed out, was deserving of being suspended, was deserving of in-school suspension, removal from class. I think I got suspended out of school suspension the first time in 5th grade, and that continued throughout, my schooling up until when I was in my freshman year of high school. I ended up being put into a group home because of truancy, skipping school, and whatever else. And then from there, was incarcerated for a fight that I got in and put on probation. And every single thing I did after that was a violation of my probation. Every time I got in trouble in school, every time I got suspended, I had a probation officer who had some conditions around me wearing a shirt and tie every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And if I didn't do that, it was a violation of my probation. And what that meant was every single time something like that happened, I was reincarcerated. And my freedom was taken from me, and I was put in a jail cell. And so experienced, again, a lot of criminalization and school push out from a very young age. And I was also very blessed that I had some educators who really believed in me and poured into me and loved on me, and believed and had higher expectations for me. And so, I was also luckily able to kind of transcend some of that with a lot of love and support and second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh chances. And so unlike many of the folks that I was getting locked up with at that age, I was able to get support that I needed, get care that I needed, and ultimately go to college and break some of the cycles that most of the folks who I was experiencing those things with did not get to do. And so I'm really blessed and lucky that I get to do this work now, again, on behalf of the young people currently, but also on behalf of my own inner child and many of the folks who I was being incarcerated and pushed out with, who never got the chance to get the support and the care and the love that they needed and deserved.
Thank you for that, Joseph. I know we've talked, you and I, because, just for people listening, you and I are very close and we talk a lot. And I feel like I know a lot about your story and your life. And, it's a lot of conversations to be had over tequila and spades, right? And walks and organizing and lots of conversations to be had. I don't think we talked about I don't remember ever talking with you about that constant reincarceration and those violations. And I think that you lifting that up is hugely important, especially as we kind of experience this world going backwards and reversal in course that's led by a fascist regime that says, we're going to be tough on crime. We're going to prosecute children as adults, right? If we think about the latest thing to come out of the Trump regime, this idea of being hard on our kids and 14-year-olds being tried, they're dropping the age in DC or attempting to drop the age in DC of youth incarceration as adults from 16 to 14. And I don't think that we understand what that is and what that does. And I don't remember you and I ever having that conversation, but a lot of these so-called youth criminals are not criminals, that they may have committed an initial offense for whatever reason. But many, many times, the young people who are locked up because of what you said, these violations, these probation violations that make non-crimes crimes. If you didn't wear a suit and tie, it's a crime. It should be that if you got a C or a D on a report card, your mama might have a conversation with you. But if you're on probation, that can be a crime, right? I remember having this student in one of the youth programs that I ran, Brian McKing. If his grades in any class were below a B, it was considered a violation of his probation, and he would go back inside for getting below a B. And so these are the things that we need to think about and what we need to push back on. I know you call yourself an abolitionist. You identify as an abolitionist. When we come forward, I would love for you to talk about what abolitionism is and why we absolutely need it, gotta have it in our schools. More with Joseph Williams when we come forward.
More of First Things First with Dominique DePrima when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. President Trump's supporters are Tom Homan denies bribery claims after MSNBC reported he took $50,000 from undercover FBI agents. The White House says the FBI found nothing wrong.
Even Kash Patel's FBI looked into this. They found zero evidence of illegal activity or criminal wrongdoing.
The White House says it stands behind Homan, who called the claims completely false. Style icon Kalana Barfield Brown's KBB line is now in Target fully stocked. Despite boycott concerns, supporters are rallying behind her as a trailblazing Black woman in fashion amid the boycott. And Cardi B says ex-Offset is delaying their divorce unless she pays his taxes and gives up her property. She vented during a live stream, calling the demands unfair and saying she's legally separated for those questioning her new relationship and pregnancy. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique, but you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers play their final 6 games of the regular season on the road beginning tonight at Arizona. Any combination of 3 wins for the Dodgers or 3 losses by San Diego gives the Dodgers their 12th NL West title in 13 seasons. Chargers running back Najee Harris, signed in the offseason as a free agent, will miss the rest of the season with a torn Achilles tendon. Harris suffered a non-contact injury in the second quarter of Sunday's win over Denver. After week 3, Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert leads the NFL in passing yardage with 860. Rams wide receiver Puka Nacua leads the NFL with 333 receiving yards. Alumni around the country from HBCU Howard University will be in a good mood this week. Howard's football team snapped an 8-game losing streak to Hampton with a 34-7 win Saturday in the Battle of the Real HU. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Looking for a purposeful and passionate way to make a difference in your community? Volunteer with our Senior Medicare Patrol and help prevent Medicare fraud. SMP volunteers work in their community educating peers about healthcare fraud and how to prevent and detect it. Free training starts soon. Check us out online or at an SMP open house near you. We're on a mission to stop fraud. Join our team. You make a difference. Visit caspvolunteer.org.
Is reviewing life insurance on your to-do list? Now's the perfect time to add it. A friend recently told me that securing life insurance sooner rather than later can help you lock in lower rates for years to come. So I bumped this up on my list and got it done. I called SelectQuote and couldn't believe how easy and affordable life insurance is. I'm 40 and got a $500,000 policy for $16 a month. My husband's also 40 and his $500,000 policy was only $18 a month. Plus, with SelectQuote's same-day coverage, there was no medical exam required and we were covered by the time we hung up. Knowing I have this checked off my list feels amazing, but the peace of mind knowing my family is protected feels even better.
Call SelectQuote at 1-800-729-7070. That's 1-800-729-7070. Or go to SelectQuote.com to get your free quote today. That's 1-800-729-7070. Details on example rate at SelectQuote.com.
Hi, I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., inviting you to join me weekdays at 12 noon, right after Tavis Smiley, here on KBLA Talk 1580. As a law school graduate and a theologian with a firm grasp of our body politic given almost 2 decades in Congress, my show is the fresh new home of an authentic, uncompromised quest for transformation and salvation, both personal and collectively, as I vigorously interrogate the theological and symbolic meanings embedded in our society. I promise to leverage my knowledge of history, theology, and both international and domestic issues to imagine an inclusive vision for the future, which I hope will inspire all of us to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as a given, not just an aspiration. So join me weekdays at 12 noon, right after Tavis Smiley, for 2 hours of the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
And we are in conversation with Joseph Williams of Students Deserve. My name is Molina Abdullah, and I'm sitting in the queen of radio, Dominique DePrima's chair. Grateful to be in conversation with Joseph Williams and with you. You're welcome to call anytime at 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580. Joseph, we've been talking about your story. We've been talking about how we beat down and beat back and abolish the school to prison pipeline. And I want to talk with you about what abolition looks like in our schools and why it's needed, why it's necessary for all of our children, but for Black students in particular?
Man, I think it's a really important conversation and also a really urgent conversation when we see the ways in which criminalization, policing, and law enforcement are escalating, impacting our communities. I think obviously folks have seen, the military takeovers and military being deputized as police. Folks have seen ICE raids, that are tearing apart immigrant families and communities. And I think, what is a little bit less talked about is the fact that the police, regular police, have also ramped up their criminalization and attacks against our communities. This year has already surpassed last year for the number of police shootings and police murders. And I'm regularly seeing in the neighborhood I live in South Central Los Angeles near Fremont High School, escalations by police against especially young Black boys in my community, in my neighborhood. And so I think it's a really urgent time to be thinking about what abolition is, what abolition looks like. I also think it's important to frame this conversation within the context of a country that is consistently pushing Black people and families and other communities of color into poverty intentionally. At the same time as I think, earlier this month, they talked about how Elon Musk might be the first trillionaire, right? That there are absolutely enough resources to meet the needs of every single young person, every single family experiencing poverty right now. But that's not what our country does. They choose to allow folks to amass massive wealth, right? Wealth that they could never possibly even spend, let alone count in their lifetime, while certain people don't have access to food, to housing, et cetera, et cetera. And I say that in relation to schools because that is often, as was my own, story and circumstances, that is often what our young people who are the most criminalized in schools are dealing with. They're dealing with poverty. They're dealing with homelessness and housing insecurity. They're dealing with food insecurity and instability in their families. And instead of receiving care, instead of investing in the care and the supports that they need, which also sometimes include accountability, right? I talked about, how folks who loved on me also had higher expectations from me. They made it very clear to me that, what's happening to you is also not an excuse for you to do things that are harmful. We want to help you meet your needs. We want to support you. They were buying me food. They were making sure I had shoes on my feet and things of that nature, but they also had expectations for me, right? So when we talk about abolition, it doesn't mean a lack of accountability. It doesn't mean that there are no consequences for your actions. It means that we are investing first in the things that help to prevent young people from harming others or harming themselves or engaging in harmful actions, right? We're investing in social emotional care and resources. We're investing in the kind of curriculum that tells them not only your ancestors were slaves, but how powerful and creative and intelligent were your ancestors. They're investing in the kinds of resources and community-based safety measures that see our communities as places that have been divested from and attacked by policing, by gentrification, by all these things for decades and decades, rather than places of harm and danger and criminality only, right? And so that's exactly what it looks like in LAUSD, right? Or should look like, rather, in LAUSD. We know that LAUSD still to this day has one of the largest independent school police departments in the entire country, where they are spending tens of millions of education dollars to fund a school police department in the same city and county that already spends billions on LAPD and billions on the county sheriffs and hundreds of millions on Torrance and all these other police departments, right? And so first it looks like investing, especially education dollars and ultimately all of our public dollars in the kind of resources and supports that actually keep our communities safe. And my dear friend, Dr. David Turner, who's been in this work with me and with us for a long time, often says the safest communities are not communities with the most police, they're communities with the most resources, right? And so that is exactly what, we talk about when we talk about school police abolition, right? The abolition of the school police, our school to prison pipeline. is investing in the kind of resources and supports that actually help to meet young people's needs so that we can prevent harm, so that we can intervene in and de-escalate harm and conflict, and so that we can respond to harm and conflict in ways that humanize our young people rather than criminalize and demonize them.
Right. I want to pick up on that point about school police in just a moment. I want folks to remember, because when we say abolish school police as a start towards abolition, right, it should be an easy thing to imagine. So I'm 53 now. You know that, Joseph, because you celebrated my birthday with me over the weekend. So I tell a lot of stories, but I'm not that old. When I was in school, there were no police in schools. There was Mr. Williams, a big man with a yellow jacket who shook your hand real hard, right? That's who was in the schools, right? There was not police with guns and assault rifles and all of these traumatizing things. Think about this. I didn't used to let my children see guns. They like, if there was a movie with guns in it, my children couldn't see it because I didn't want that invading and intruding on their spirits. So what does it mean that in school, where you're supposed to be nurtured and supposed to be learning and open, that you have armed, militarized police in the school? So I want to just plant that seed as we invite JW online too into the conversation.
How you doing? Hello, how you doing?
Good morning. Good morning. What you got for us,
morning.
JW?
How are you?
Good.
Well, maybe you might comment on, when a teenager goes through puberty and how they may weaponize that against the youth because you have a chemical imbalance, and since they're weaponizing everything else, because we do live in an open air prison called the United States of America. As simple as that. And it's over policing, and it creates an environment to cause the problem so they can try to do something with a hidden agenda to have the motive to put all the youth in the penitentiary because it's a hidden agenda, and they've been doing it for generations. It's as simple as that.
Thank you so much. I think that's a really, really well-made point. Joseph Williams, do you want to respond to that about what it also means that, I hear teachers all the time saying the hardest grades to teach are middle school, right? When students start to develop and transition into adulthood, and JW is raising, what does it mean that, their hormones are running crazy, and then that's weaponized against them as if that's not just natural. And, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, absolutely. And again, my own experience is some of the ways in which I was treated, even though they started in elementary school being pushed out, they really escalated in middle school. And I remember, I had beyond just school policing, the culture of criminalization, the culture of abuse of Black children in our schools, is wild. I had a teacher in middle school who literally at one point, he was so angry at me, he picked me up by my shirt and threw me into the wall, a white male teacher. And nothing happened to this teacher, right? And so we talk about the hormones that young people are experiencing, but we don't often talk about the way in which, educators or adults, and especially, school police, have their own hormonal responses, even as adults, that escalate those kinds of situations. We all know, as parents or as folks who have, nieces and nephews or babies that we love on, there's times when kids are going to wild out, crash out, right? As the young people say, and let their emotions overcome them because their brains are literally still developing, right? And they don't know how to process that rush of emotion, that rush of hormones. And so again, I think a healthy society would be one that sees that as a normal stage of development, that understands that your brain is not fully developed. And so therefore I can't respond to you as if you are fully responsible for your actions and fully capable of dealing with the masses of hormones and emotions that you're dealing with. Again, especially when it's exacerbated by all the trauma that our young people are experiencing outside of schools. And that would respond to them and say, how do we help this young person address, these hormones in a more productive way, right? If we have a society where we're saying that if a young person is in conflict, right, in a fight, for example, with another young person, that the response to that, an acceptable response to that, is for adults to then go in and body slam and pepper spray and beat and cage these young people, right? We're saying, oh, it's not okay for these kids to be violent, but the response is okay for an adult to be violent against these children. Makes absolutely no sense, right? So I absolutely agree with that. And, it's something that we're absolutely still seeing, unfortunately.
In the chat, Joseph, Jacqueline is saying, thanking you for your story. And she said she's so grateful that there were people who cared enough to see your ability over the challenges that you faced. And so we thank you for that affirmation, Sister Jacqueline. When we come forward, Brother Joseph, you're an abolitionist, which means not only are we saying what we don't want in schools, we don't want teachers and administrators who see our children as problems, who think that they get to put their hands on our children. We don't want police in our schools, but we do want some things. We want ethnic studies, right? We want programming. We want counselors. We want all of these things. We want meals. We want good meals, not the Aramark meals. No more Aramark meals, right? We want good meals. We want nurturing. We want all of these things. So when we come forward, 2 questions for Joseph Williams. 1, what do our students deserve? 2, how students deserve winning those things? And of course, we still got time for your calls at 800-920-1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
September is World Alzheimer's Month, a time to shine a light on a public health crisis that hits Black families hardest. 1 in 5 Black adults ages 70 and older is living with Alzheimer's disease, or AD, and it's not a normal part of aging. Early signs like repeating questions, missed appointments, even trouble handling bills might seem small, but they matter. The good news, there are treatment options available that may slow AD when diagnosed early. Don't wait. Visit treatalzearly.com. That's treatalzearly.com to learn more. This message is brought to you by AZI.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Imagine a Los Angeles where everyone can thrive, where communities have access to the resources they need to succeed. That's the vision of Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. They're dedicated to improving life in LA County by providing educational support, employment assistance, and spaces for community engagement. By 2050, they want LA to be the best place to connect, create, learn, live, and play. They're working toward an education system that's well-resourced and culturally responsive, becoming a hub for artists and innovators, and making sure everyone has access to healthy food, quality healthcare, and safe housing. It's about building a future where we all have the chance to succeed. We invite you to learn more about their mission and get involved with Detours Mentoring Group, Inc. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Do you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans? With credit card debt at all-time highs, Debt Relief Advocates is urgently notifying consumers of debt relief now being made available, designed to aid consumers with out-of-control credit card debt. Those who qualify and enroll for this relief program will only have to pay back a fraction of what they owe. This is not bankruptcy or a debt consolidation loan. This is a relief program that credit card companies would rather you not know about, as it ends your debt nightmare and saves you lots of money. Consumers owing at least $10,000 in credit card debt or personal loans can now take advantage of this debt relief as the cost of living skyrockets. Debt Relief Advocates has established a relief hotline for you to call to learn what debt reduction you may qualify for, so don't wait. For this free information, call the Relief Hotline at 800-515-4493, 800-515-4493, 800-515-4493.
Broadcasting live from Leimert Park, USA. Welcome back to your home for unapologetically progressive radio, KBLA Talk 1580.
My name is Molina Abdullah, and I'm sitting in Dominique DePrima's chair this morning. Grateful for her and grateful to be sitting here, especially in conversation with Joseph Williams of Students Deserve. We're talking about what it means to be an abolitionist who works in schools. And Joseph Williams, one of the things I really appreciate about Students Deserve is it is about building the schools LA students deserve. It is about building what we want, not just, addressing the harms that can come in schools, but how can we work for the schools LA students deserve? So what is that? What do students deserve inside our schools?
I mean, the short answer is everything, right? You often say, I got a poster with one of your quotes that say, we can build a world where we have everything we need and most of what we want. And I think, that's what young people deserve in our schools, right? Everything that they need and most of what they want. That includes things like counselors and social emotional support. That includes things like academic support and academic and college and career support, all the technical education and career education that's been defunded and taken out of our schools. They deserve African American and ethnic studies. They deserve to go on HBCU tours, right? To visit colleges and universities that are educational spaces for Black students that look like them and that are surrounded by people that look like them pursuing a higher education. They deserve rigorous courses that help them learn and that help them, prepare themselves for this increasingly technological world. They deserve everything, right? They deserve to have their needs met. They deserve for our public education dollars to be meeting the needs of those, especially those, again, who have been the most divested from and the most underinvested in their communities for decades. And we've been really blessed in Students Deserve, like you said, to not only be talking about trying to end policies and practices that criminalize young people and push young people into the school to prison pipeline, but also on the flip side of that, to be trying to push the district, LAUSD, the second largest district in the country, which has tens of thousands of Black students among its 500,000 students, to invest in the kind of resources and programs and supports that Black students and all students ultimately deserve. And so, in 2020, shout out to Black Lives Matter Los Angeles, Students Deserve, and also the Brother Son Selves Coalition helped to pull together what's now known as the Police Free LAUSD Coalition, which has won some really historic victories, trying to do both of those things, right? Which won a $25 million divestment from the school police department and an investment in the creation of the Black Student Achievement Plan, which for the first time in LAUSD's history targeted positive resources instead of just cops and criminalization and zero tolerance policies at the schools with the highest number of Black students. And some of those resources include things like psychiatric social workers, pupil services and attendance counselors, academic and career counselors, school climate advocates, ethnic studies and African American studies courses, restorative justice teachers, funding for community partnerships so that they can be mentored by community organizations, folks from their community that look like them, funding for community-based safety initiatives like Safe Passage and like Peace Building, so that folks who are doing powerful community violence intervention work or gang intervention work or peace building in their communities can also be directly connected to and funded from schools rather than funding police and criminalization for young people who are coming from communities impacted by gang violence and things like that. And so a whole host of resources. And Doc, that abolition and that safety, rather, is not one thing, right? And, so many people, because we've lived in this society for so long, when they think about safety, they just think about police. But actually, we know that there are so many different needs that our communities have that we should be investing in, that young people have that we should be investing in, that are actually what keeps our communities safe. And so we've been able to do that in a real way in LAUSD. And obviously there's still a lot of work to be done, but we're still doing that work. Even as, the country is rolling back on DEI policies and saying, you can't say Black. We just won for this school year an increase in $50 million more dollars for a total of $175 million this year for the Black Student Achievement Plan, as well as funding for Dream Centers for immigrant students and resources for queer and trans students who are being, demonized by this administration. So even in these conditions, when we support young people's brilliance and vision and we get behind them, we can win some real powerful victories.
So we only have a few more minutes, but I want to just underscore two of the points that you made, because you ran through that number real quick. I want people to understand what that means. $175 million earmarked investment in Black students annually from LAUSD. What that's meant, and I just told Amara's story, what that's meant is the reason she's at Clark Atlanta University is because there was a Black Student Achievement Plan that first took her to a Black College Expo where she got on-the-spot admission to Southern University, where she went for her freshman year. But they also took her, all expenses paid, with all the other students and Black students in LAUSD who signed up, to a Black college store where she visited the AU Center and had it in her mind that Clark Atlanta is where she wanted to be, and that's where she is. That's your work, Joseph. And so I want folks to know that that work translates into real changed lives and real investments and ability for students. What you said and what people are saying in the chat, it's an opportunity for us to pour into our kids so that when they see a loud Joseph in class, they know, that's not a bad thing. Joseph Williams would make a good chant leader. When they see an Amara who won't sit still in the classroom, that's a good thing. That means that as soon as something happens, Amara's going to address it and nothing's going to get by her. And so I love the way that you do this work. And with just about a minute left, Joseph, how do people plug into the work of Students Deserve?
So please follow us on Instagram at LA_Students Deserve. Tap in with us if you're in LAUSD and you're interested in starting a chapter at your school as a young person, or even as a parent or an educator who wants to support young people to organize. Send us a DM. Let us know, hey, I'm at X school. We are constantly trying to support grassroots organizing from the bottom up. When people come to us and say, we want to start a chapter, we want to get involved, we do everything in our power to support that to happen. We have our upcoming General Assembly on October 1st. That'll be on our Instagram. And then also later in October, we have, with our Police Free LAUSD Coalition, an Arts Justice Festival where young people will be showing what it looks like. There's an improv being planned for young people to show, right, through arts, what it looks like when they're invested in instead of criminalized. So tap in with us again at LA_Students Deserve and help join and support the work.
Thank you so much for waking up early with me, Joseph, and thank you especially for your work. Joseph Williams of Students Deserve. When we come forward, we'll be talking with Jill Monroe about Jussie Smollett in this new Netflix documentary right here on First Things First.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. President Trump's supporters are Tom Homan denies bribery claims after MSNBC reported he took $50,000 from undercover FBI agents. The White House says the FBI found nothing wrong.
Even Kash Patel's FBI looked into this. They found zero evidence of illegal activity or criminal wrongdoing.
The White House says it stands behind Homan, who called the claims completely false. Style icon Kalana Barfield Brown's KBB line is now in Target fully stocked. Despite boycott concerns, supporters are rallying behind her as a trailblazing Black woman in fashion amid the boycott. And Cardi B says ex-Offset is delaying their divorce unless she pays his taxes and gives up a property. She vented during a live stream, calling the demands unfair and saying she's legally separated for those questioning her new relationship and pregnancy. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers play their final 6 games of the regular season on the road beginning tonight at Arizona. Any combination of 3 wins for the Dodgers or 3 losses by San Diego gives the Dodgers their 12th NL West title in 13 seasons. Chargers running back Najee Harris, signed in the offseason as a free agent, will miss the rest of the season with a torn Achilles tendon. Harris suffered a non-contact injury in the second quarter of Sunday's win over Denver. After week 3, Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert leads the NFL in passing yardage with 860. Rams wide receiver Puka Nacua leads the NFL with 333 receiving yards. Alumni around the country from HBCU Howard University will be in a good mood this week. Howard's football team snapped an 8-game losing streak to Hampton with a 34-7 win Saturday in the Battle of the Real HU. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson.